Let me give you a little guided tour about Cascadeur also for myself so that I don't forget the basics, just in case I come back to this and think, how does this work again? This is how Cascadeur works. This is version 2026.1. which comes with a new filament render engine, so we can now add materials to our characters as well as HDRIs for the background. Before that, they were just gray, pretty much like what they look like right now. But you know, the character comes in by default. If you open a new scene and that doesn't happen, from File, New Scene, and you want to bring in one of the default characters, you can click this little house icon and then pick one from the list. We've got UE5 Manny here, Quinn, various other bits and pieces here, as well as Cassie. That's their sort of mascot character here. I've already got it, so I'm going to go return to my default scene here. You'll see that the character has a control rig, but that's not the only control rig that we have. You also notice that it might behave a little bit weird, and we're going to talk about how to actually use these things. First of all, I want to bring your attention to this little icon at the top left here. Currently, we're in auto posing mode, and that means the character is showing these green dots, except for the blue ones on the feet here. And that means when I go and move my character around, the rest of the body sort of auto follows depending on what I do with it by the magic of AI, of course. So it tries to retain the center of balance. And also when I go and do that, when I go and move one point around and then click somewhere else, like we've clicked on the hand that's now vanished in the body, that point is blue. Let me go and see if I can move that out of the body. There it is. Hand is now over here. So if I go and click off it, you'll see that this point remains blue. Everything else is green. So what this means to Cascadeur is that blue points are currently fixed. Those are the ones that I've moved somewhere. So it assumes this was intentional, and hence it's not going to go and move that elsewhere. Everything else, green, is controlled by the system. So if I go and take the other hand and go and move that hand out, notice that my other hand, my blue hand, is in place, as are the feet. But this hand and the rest of the body, so I control one hand and the rest of the body gets auto-controlled up to a point. You know, obviously that if I go and yank it out too much, then it just goes and gets ripped out of place here. But you'll also notice that as I go and move that other hand, it now also remains blue. If I click off it, you can see these 2 points are now fixed, and I could go ahead and move that into a different position, thereby going to rotating the character. And doing that, you guessed it, it'll also make that point blue. So this means these are the fixed points. If I wanted to unfix them and make them be controlled by the system again, I have to right-click it and press Shift-Z. That'll go and undo that. There's also a menu for that makes this a bit more clear. If we use this hand as an example, maybe this hand here, left-click the point, then right-click it once it's selected, and then there is Fix and Unlock. So if I go and Shift-Z is unlock, if I do that, that hand snaps back, and that'll now return it to system control. That means as I move this hand, everything that's green gets controlled by the system. It's a little bit confusing to understand if you pick up Cascadeur and play around with it and you think, hey, that doesn't really make any sense. Now I hope it does. What didn't make sense, if I go and move my playhead in the timeline to a different frame, then click another point and then try to record a movement, like maybe this hand going up, you'll notice that as I let go of my mouse, the hand snaps back. And you think, yeah, but why? Why isn't it just setting a keyframe? It's because it's by design. So Cascadeur doesn't record auto keyframes by default. You have to press the F key or click this button to add or remove a keyframe. When I do that and then move my arm around, then you can see that this keyframe in fact gets recorded. Same thing again, I go to frame 20 and then I'll go and move my arm back down, and perhaps, whoops, and it hasn't happened because I have to press F first and then move my hand down, and then perhaps also move that hand down. Oh, maybe that's too much. There we go. Or in fact, press Shift-Z. Let it be auto-controlled once again. There we go. Now, the auto-posing mode is not the only way I can control my character. It's just one way. There are other modes. There are other control rigs. Let me just go to frame 30, press F, so that we record a keyframe, and I'll show you some of the other ones that we can do. This is actually happening in this menu at the top here. If you go and click this little fly out button, you'll see that we have several view modes that we can select. And to make matters even more complicated, when you right click on any of these icons, you'll see that there's an independent sub-menu for these view modes. If you want to make any changes, they can be made here. So anything that you want to show or not show, that'll happen here. So right now we're in auto posing mode, but if I go to the one on the left, and we just start from the left here, then all my controllers go away. So this is just a view mode. If you want to watch your animation without any overlays, if you click off the character, then you just see the character. So that's quite nice. That's view mode. Then the one next to it is the auto posing mode that we've just seen. The one next to that is point controller mode. So notice that those are two completely different control rigs on the character, and they, of course, they behave differently as well. Points are controlled similar to the auto posing mode. You can select one, let's say the hand here, and then you can move it around, and it behaves almost like FK, but not quite. It also behaves a little bit like IK, but not quite. And it takes a little getting used to, but it's designed for you to make granular changes that are not affecting any other parts of the body. You can also go and try to rotate these. That's set up here. So this is no manipulator, translate mode, rotate mode, and scale mode. You can go and use these, or you can use the keyboard shortcuts, which are Q, W, E, and R, much like they were in Maya. I can't do scale right now, but it's just, so Q is nothing, W is translate, and then E is rotate. And then on top of that, you can also switch from the global to the local axis, either with this button here, G for global mode, L for local mode, or you can go and use the tilde key. That's the one left of the number 1 on your keyboard, the one close to the escape key there. That'll also switch between those things. So you could go and try to rotate the hand. It does work in Cascadeur 2026 to click any of these little icons and then rotate, but notice that more points get selected. I believe that's a change they've made in 2026, because that was greatly confusing in 2025 and before. When you select one point and then try to rotate, nothing happens. And technically you're supposed to double click this point, and then everything to the bottom of that hierarchy gets selected. Like say the shoulder here, double click that, and then everything below it also gets selected. And then everything behaves like in FK, basically. Those are point controllers. So there's another controller. I'm going to go to frame 40 and press F. That is called the box controller. That's the next one in the filter. This is the point controller. This is the box controller. And they look deceptively similar, but don't have points. These are good if you wanted to do something like curl a hand or curl a finger. Let me go and select the hand here, the other hand. Sometimes a little tricky to get it, but yeah, you go and select it, and then you can rotate this hand joint here as you would expect. But you can also double click a box, and then it goes and selects everything below it. And I wanted to show you this because on one hand you can go and rotate, of course, nothing else seems to happen right now. But if I go and enable global tail mode, in fact, let's go and move that shoulder out a little bit. Go back to the hand, double click the hand controller here, and then you switch on global tail mode, which is this one here. Then you rotate, and notice that all the bones that you've got selected will rotate. So both up and down. This is good if you have something like a tail that you want to curl up or down. Then everything like 20 to 50 tail segments get turned the same way. So in this case, with the thumb, it doesn't make all that much sense, but we could use just some of the fingers here, like this one, double click, shift, double click the next two, and then he'll curl his two fingers here, up or down. Do the Nixon or don't do the Nixon. Totally up to you. So those are box controllers, and they all work in tandem, so you can switch between controllers depending what you need at any given time. I just wanted to show you the other three options here before we move on. The next one here is just the skeletal mode, so you see all the bones that your character has. The next one after that is mesh mode. This lets you now select the character, and in the object properties, you can set something like material, or you can set other properties here. And then the last one here is the most complex one. I'm going to go and click off the character so that it's not yellow, and select the last thing here. And that is all the stuff that Cascadeur has set up. for your character under the hood. So the characters that come with Cascadeur here, with the little house icon here, those are the ones that have that set up. If you import a character, this needs to be set up. So that's why you get all these dialogues that say, do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? Do you want to do a rig and whatnot? This is what Cascadeur is going to set up. Usually automatically, most characters are known to it, like Mixer Mode, DAZ figures, Unreal Engine figures, character creator figures. They're all known. And if it's, as long as it is a known, like metahumans, as long as it is a known character, this will be created automatically. If it's something that Cascadeur does not know, then you'll be asked to do this manually. Let's just have a look what we have here. These green balls, those are actually physics volumes. That is important for autophysics. So if you want to have secondary motion added to your character automatically, like, arms wiggling or character creating a heavy gun or something, it uses this to calculate how much weight is on what part of your body. Then you have your box controllers, you have your point controllers, and you also have the skeleton. And one other thing that's quite important here are the fulcrum points. This is how fulcrum is generated. Fulcrum means in Cascadeur if your feet make contact with the ground, and they're set up with these little boxes here. So again, if this is not recognized automatically for a character you're importing, you would have to go and do this manually, which is so important that your character is touching the ground or is fully on the ground when you import them. Let's go back to the view mode here so that, if this is collapsed, you can also go and click this icon and rotate between these modes. And that just goes and rotates. That's basically exactly what we did on the fly out menu here. Just in case you're confused, fly out menu up and down, this is how it does it. If I go and press the space bar now or move my playhead, you'll see that technically we have an animation, but it doesn't really seem to move very smoothly. In fact, let me go and click this button on the right here. That's the last keyframe that it sees on the timeline, and that just goes and gets rid of all the excess empty space here. So I can go and press play, and then it'll go and loop my animation here. But it's blocked out, so this is good to see. Does your animation work in principle? If it doesn't, now's the time to make changes. We're going to talk about making changes in a moment. But to make an interpolation smooth between this, we can go and use a different interpolation per interval. And this is basically the opposite of what happens in iClone. You don't select the keyframe that you want to change the interpolation of, and then everything in front of it will be changed. No, in this case, you select the current keyframe and set the interpolation of anything that happens between this and the next keyframe. So you don't have to select both keyframes. If you do that, then the interpolation will be set on this and the next interval. It's going to happen on per keyframe basis. So on this keyframe, right click, interpolation mode, then you can select something like Bezier or Bezier Vicious, clamped, linear. Step is what we currently have. Fixed or AI. AI we'll talk about in a moment because that's a very cool feature here. But if we select Bezier, then you see that this interval now gets interpolated smooth between these two keyframes. Now I could select the next keyframe and choose something else, like maybe linear in this case. And you'll see that depending on the interpolation mode, it gets a different color here. You can select multiple keyframes as well. So if I go and select my whole range, left click and drag this whole interval, so encompassing all the keyframes. Anywhere I select interpolation mode, I can say Bezier clamped, and that now gets this little blue color, and that means everything is now being interpolated. Now, if I wanted to go and move keyframes around, that is a little bit non-standard as well. I'll go and expand my play range here and maybe copy the first keyframe over to frame 50. Then you go and select that keyframe, middle mouse click and drag it so that you see this little yellow box appear, and it'll tell you which keyframe this is going to land on as you let go of the middle mouse button. So like this, for example. So now I'm going to add Bezier clamp interpolation to this as well. Make that my last keyframe. And that now means my animation is perfectly loopable. So we don't see that jump to the back there. So yeah, middle click and drag. Haven't seen that in an application before, other than Blender when it comes to moving around the viewport. Speaking of which, I haven't actually talked about that. Moving around the viewport is Maya style. So Alt, left click and drag will rotate. Alt, middle mouse button, drag will in fact pan. So there we have that middle mouse button again. And then scrolling in and out is dollying towards and from the character. Now, speaking of interpolation, AI interpolation is probably my favorite, and this is what I'm going to leave you with. I'm going to go and type in 200 into this field here. So to make my animation a little bit longer, then I will go to the last frame and press F so that we have a keyframe here. You can just about see that when we go and zoom in here. And then I'm going to go back to my auto pausing mode, and I'll go and grab all the points of my character, go to translate mode, go to world mode, and on that 200th frame, I'm going to go and move my character over to another point. So that means now if I go and move my playhead, here we have that smooth interpolation, and from here to there, he just jumps. Nothing more happens there. So if I then go and right-click on my keyframe on frame 50, I'll go and choose interpolation type AI. Watch what happens now. The system is going to generate a walking animation here, and that's this purple thing. That means AI interpolation. I'll go back into my view mode here so that we don't have to see any overlays. And the moment I press play, you can see that from here to there, the character now goes and turns into a walking animation. In fact, running animation. I think that timing hasn't quite worked out. I don't know why he's stepping back, but you can see that he's trying to walk between the 2 points that I've indicated there. If that hasn't worked so well like it did in our example, let me select my last keyframe and then middle mouse drag it to something like frame, I don't know, 120 perhaps. And it takes a moment to recalculate this motion. And then I'll see that my character no longer moves backwards. We see our first part of the animation, then he just goes and starts running. So depending on how much time there is for AI to make this happen, it'll go and turn it into a walking or a running animation. So if I go and select this and go and bring it even closer here to maybe frame 90, then you'll see that it's trying very hard to make that a really fast run. If I go and make that a bit longer, maybe try frame 150 here, then you'll see that this is turning more into like a jump starting animation, but more like a walking animation then. So yes, lots of fun to be had. Cascadeur can also be used to clean up mocap data that has technically got a keyframe on every frame of the animation. For that, it has a system called unbaking, and it'll allow us to turn this every keyframe into segments that we can then go and change. And maybe we'll look at that in another video. I hope this was helpful so far. This is really just scratching the surface of what we have in Cascadeur. There's a ton of other stuff that you can do, like the autophysics with the interpolated secondary motion. Maybe we'll look at that in another video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.